I won't really get to see I won't get to see what you said until after I do my demonstration. I really like to focus on what I'm doing and then get back to you. And like I said in the comments, I will either try to answer the question live or I'll get back to you later and type in an answer. I'm guessing some of you are here because you do some weaving or you're interested in weaving. I'm going to talk about the warping mill, and a warping mill can be used with a table loom, a floor loom, and also rigid heddle loom. Now, I know a lot of people, and myself included, if I'm going to use my rigid heddle loom, I like to do a direct warping with a warping peg, but that's just my preference in anything. Now, first of all, the angle of this camera, this thing looks like it's all out of whack here, but it really isn't. It's pretty stable, so I just want to point that out to you to begin with. Now, I know there are a lot of different warping mills out there. I believe Ashford makes one, Chat, Leclerc, Louette. There's probably a lot of other ones out there as well. Most of them, I think someone said you have storage issues. Most of them come apart. So talking about the anatomy of a warping mill, most of them break down, which is really nice. For example, this one happens to be a Harrisville warping mill, and let me take one of these here. I have one that's not connected. It actually comes with 3 sets of these. Kind of lost one of the pegs though. So you can take them apart with wing nuts, or like I said, the pegs even fall out. Isn't that great? One nice thing about having the pegs come out is when you take your warping, when you take your warp off, it's good to have it come out. Of course, right now in this winter time, everything's dry, so they fall out a little bit more than I want them to do. But again, you can actually take them and move them up and down and do a lot of adjusting with them. So that's one thing I wanted to make you aware of. This one has some wing nuts in the back that I loosen. I can take the whole thing out, and typically if I take these off, this all collapses. And again, looking at most of the other ones, they do. This one's made out of wood. According to Harrisville, you can put a 20-yard warp on here. Now, maybe if you have some really thin yarn, you might be able to. I probably wouldn't put more than a 15-yard warp on here. And I'll explain a little bit more about the warps and sizes and things like that too. So anyway, just a little bit of the anatomy. I also have a little piece of paper here to remind me what I'm doing. Okay, we did storage, it takes apart. It does come apart. Something else for a warping mill, one nice thing is you can adjust the height of this. Now I put it for myself that I can see where I'm going to make my cross. So that's one nice thing. The other thing, you want to make sure the table that you have it on is sturdy enough, it's not going to fall off or anything like that. So that's another important thing to do. And you also want to make sure it turns freely. It's not going to get stuck. Now the Harrisville one also has a brake. Now right now I have the brake off. When I put the brake on, it slows it down, and I usually do that when I'm taking the warp off because I don't want it to spin really fast. Now some people like warping boards, but some people don't. They don't like that back and forth movement. Some people like the warping mill, but some people say it makes them a little dizzy. Well, I guess if you go too fast, it could. So there's pros and cons for both of them. What I'm going to do today is, I'll show you first of all what I did ahead of time, is I decided that I'm going to make a warp that's 16 inches wide. It's 10 ends per inch. I decided I need a 4.5-yard warp length, but I'm going to probably go to 5 because I always like a little bit to play with. 160 ends, which means I need about 270 yards. So first of all, you want to make sure you have enough yarn. Now I'm going to do 2 warps instead of 1. I'm going to go over that, the reason I'm doing that first right now. A couple of things that I've noticed on the internet when I've seen people doing different things and with their warping boards and warping mills. One thing, there's 3 pegs here. And what happens is I see some people make the cross here. You really want to make your cross here. You want more room, so when you take it to your loom, you have a little bit of extra yarn here. But if it's here, you don't have that. The other thing that I see some people do is they try to put too much yarn on a warping board or a warping mill. And they try to do their whole warp and get as much as they can on here. What happens is there's a little tension going on and it's not going to be even. It's much better to do 2 or 3 or even 4 warps to take to your loom. It'll go on the loom a lot nicer and a lot easier. You won't be as frustrated. There won't be as many tangles, we hope, anyway. I know that's one of the things that people frustrate people about getting things to the loom. But I'm going to show you a couple tricks that I do. Maybe they'll work for you. Got to give it a go, though. You got to try it and practice. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to assemble all your materials. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using this really thick yarn. It's, like I said, it's going to be set at 10 ends per inch. It's a cotton recycled. And what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to put the cones on the floor. I know you can't see those, but I'll tell you what the project is. One of the groups I'm a member of, we meet once a year and we do spinning. So this is some wool that I hand spun. 3 different colors of purples, and that's kind of an eggplant color. What I'm going to be doing is making a warp, and then this is going to be the supplemental warp. So I'm thinking maybe next month, in January, I might talk and demonstrate how and what a supplemental warp is with these yarns. And I'm curious to see what's going to happen because I'm mixing cotton and wool. The next thing you want to make sure you have handy are something to tie with. Now, here is my age here. These are like old pantyhose. You can cut up those if you still have anything, or stretchy stocks, or maybe you have some t-shirts. Something that's stretchy. That's what I like to use to tie all my warps with. You can use them over and over again, and you can tie it pretty tight, and it won't move around. So just an idea on that. The other thing you want to make sure that you have, I have it here, are some scissors. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about the anatomy. Like I said, we have the cross up here, and we could also do the cross down here. Some people do a cross at the top and the bottom. Sometimes you can do a cross at top and bottom, and then you can fold everything in half, cut it in half, and you have 2 warps already made. I'm not going to do that today, but I think I explained that at probably another video some other time. Now what I also have here is a guide, my guide. So pick some color that's different than your yarn and put it on your loom or on your warping mill. This one, let's see how it goes around here. First of all, half of this is 1 yard, and I go around 2, and then we go 3, 4, and if I wanted to do 4.5, I could have stopped here. But like I said, I decided to go a little bit farther, and I went to 5. I'm not going to make a cross at the top and the bottom. I'm only going to do it at the top. So those are just some ideas for you to get started. Once you know the yardage on here, you might not need the guide thread, but it's a really good idea, especially if you're going to do several at a time. Then you can use the same thread over and over again and get the same length. So like I said, I put 2 on the floor. Now why do I have 2? I'm going to cut my time in half. So hang on while I get out of the picture for a moment and pick up the yarn. If you have the luxury of having 2 cones the same, you can do 2 at a time. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tie a little overhand knot like that. And then I'm going to slip this on the bottom. Now I like to start from the bottom because I happen to do my warp I warp my looms from back to front, and I like to have all the loose ends or tidy ends down at the bottom and have my cross at the top. Again, that's up to you what you want to do. Now what I'm going to do now, I just said I'm going to do, so I'm going to count by 2s to 10. I'm going to follow my guide thread. Now you have a choice. You can either go on the top or the bottom. I'm going to go on the top, and my fingers in between those 2. So this is the 2. And now here's where I make my cross, and I'm going to go back down 4. Six. 8. And I'm pushing it down just a little bit. The other thing, the tension isn't too tight. It's loose enough, but not too tight. And now this will be 10. And I'll show you what I do after I get to 10. My cousin was here today, and I told him it said there were 40 people wanted to watch this, and of course, people who aren't into fiber, like, who wants to watch someone spin and make a warp? But anyway, he thought that was pretty funny. Now, the other thing I also had ahead of time was I have another piece of yarn. It's a different color. This is kind of an orangey color. And what I like to do is I just did 10. Well, 10 ends per inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it. You might be hard to see if maybe you have you can zoom in and look at this. I'm going to take it through and loop it. Now, you could just do an overhand knot or something like that, but that's giving me a count. I just did an inch. All right, so we did 1 inch. Let's do the next inch, and then I'll tell you a little bit more. So I'm going to go again, 2. And you can see I'm just gently pushing this down, 2. And then we go back up, 4. And now I'm going a little bit faster, 6. They do make warping paddles and other things. I just don't like any little extra things. 8. Another tool that might get in my way. 8. And again, I'm watching my cross here. 10. All right, now I'm at the point again. I'm going to tie next group. If you don't do back to front, I do this so I can put that in my rattle. The other reason I do that, let's say the dog barks, the phone rings, something happens to distract you. I don't have to go back and count all the threads. Maybe I did 1 or 2. All I have to do is go back and count my groups. Just one of those little tricks that I don't know where I learned it, but someone showed it to me. And I didn't do it probably about 5 years ago. It was when someone told me about that. Now, you could use 3 yarn threads if you want to, but sometimes that can get a little sticky, I guess is what I say. So let's do it again. I'm going to go 2, 4, 'and I do count out loud, 6, 8, and 10. So it's time to do another group, and I have 3 inches. Now this is probably the part that someone might say it's kind of like watching paint dry, because I need to go up. I'm doing half of it, so I need to do 8 of these is what my plan is. So here we go again, 2. And you notice that I'm trying not to pile this up. 4. 6. 8. And 10. Well, the next group again, if you want to do an overhand knot or some other kind of knot, that's fine. And right now, if I forgot what I was doing, I now have 4 inches. And I guess if you have a little problem with this going around, if you focus closely on each part as it's going around, that might help you from get too dizzy. I'm not sure, I guess it's, if you're watching from where you are right now, it might be a little like, whoa, let me hold on to my seat. All right, 2, 4, 6, started talking, 8, 10. So let's make sure. Maybe I made a mistake here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, we're all right. That's what I'm saying. If you got distracted for some reason. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. If you were changing colors, you can just cut it off. If I was going to change the color here, I could snip it, tie another color on, and go. Like if you're doing stripes or something like that. That's why I like to use this smaller warping mill. If I'm doing stripes or something, I can change the color. And again, if you can change it at the bottom, you can do it at the top, whatever your pattern calls for, but I like to work in even numbers. So let's do this again. 2, 4, and nice, I'm just staying in the same spot here. 6, I want to get to where I'm taking it off. 6, 8, 10. Of course, if this is something that you're not used to, you probably wouldn't be spinning it quite as fast as I'm spinning it. All right, so another group, and we have 1 more inch to do. And we're on the last one. 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. All right, we're at the end. So I am going to cut that. I'm going to just tie these together just to make it look nice and tidy there. So I'm just going to do a small square knot on the end. All right, so now you notice that everything, and you can tell if I try to do too much, it's just not going to work. It's going to be too much on here because you really don't want things to be squished up on top of each other. That's when they get a little out of order, so to speak. But I'm going to squish them together when I tie them. All right, so I forgot my last group here. All right, so I have my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The very first thing that I do is tie the cross before I do anything else. And I'm going to use a different color so you can see it. And what I do is I push my finger in the back, and then I want to do the same thing on the other side. I want to pull it through. So right now, all those threads are all little groups, are all kind of like 1 group, 2, 2, 2. They all peel off easier. That's why we do the cross, so it peels off easy. And like I said, with this stretchy fabric, I can just kind of tie it really tight. I could do another knot if I want to, but that's going to hold. And that's one thing I've also noticed. Some people just tie it very loosely. You really want to tie your cross and other areas. Now, I have black ones. Unfortunately, you won't be able to see them as much, but I think you get an idea. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to, again, you're going to see people do things all different ways. This is just one way. If you found a way that works for you and you don't do it this way, it's fine with me. There's so many ways of doing things out there. I'm just showing you my way. All right, so the next thing, I'm trying not to get this guide thread because I need to use it again. I'm going to do another one on this side. Losing some of my paper, there we go. Now I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to do the top and I'm going to do the bottom. Now, if you didn't count your groups here, I would put another one here. But right now, this is nice and tight, so I don't need to tie it. It's already tied. The next place I want to make sure I tie is near the end, and I usually tie it, again, I'm trying to get that nice green thread there, get that out of the way. I'm going to tie it right here. Again, nice and tight. Yes, now they're all squished together, but they weren't squished together when we were going around. And then if you have a long warp, sometimes I'll do them maybe not every single spot. So here I started here, maybe I'll do one here, maybe every yard if you want to. Okay, we do have more ties. So I could come across and do it straight across over here. And I'll do one more here. All right. Now, I've seen people do like clip this and make sure they go to their loom and don't get out of order. If this is a short warp, it's going to work out really nicely when I get on my loom. So now it's all ready. So what do I have to do? I have to take it off the loom. And they call it chaining. It's really crocheting. Like I said, with this one, I could take the peg out. I think I can slide it off this right now. There we go. So well, the pegs are falling, and it looks like I actually tied that. All right, so let's watch while I fix this. I apparently tied that. Oh, no, I didn't. There we go. It's around there. Yay! Oh, now this is where I can put the brake on this one. So right now, I've put the brake on. So as you can see, it's already, whoops, it goes the other way. It's already starting to fall down. So I should have put the brake on to begin with. There we go. So the brake's on now, and it won't unwind really fast. The first thing you do is you make like a little bit of a circle, wrap it around your hand, take your hand in the middle, and you're going to be crocheting. Your hand is a big crochet hook. And I do believe I have a thread wrapped around all of those threads there. Ah. All right, well, we're going to see what happens here. I think I'm going to have to let go of that guide thread, so I can put that back on later. All right, we're going to let that dangle down there. All right, so I have that one. You can do it as tight as you want if you want to. I'm going to keep on going. Now the guide thread is part of that. I will just cut that out later. Keep going. Nice that it's a different color. And you see it is, I did slow it down with that brake. So that's one nice thing about this warping mill. Almost to the top. All right. And now we take it off and we take the guide thread off all at the same time. And we have a warp ready to go put on a loom. But I have to make another one, like I said, to put, so I have a 16-inch wide warp. And what I will do is I'm going to start everything all over again, the same process, start again, and I should have two that are the same length to go on the loom. Now I'm going to go and look at some of the questions you might have. I have my laptop here, so I'm going to pick it up and bring it over and see if you have any questions. All right. Yep. Okay, I'm looking at some of your comments, but you know how you try to scroll with your finger and you realize that you're not on that kind of a device? How does it make that much difference? Okay. Which question? Let's go up here. Used to milk. Some people, because you're not doing the arm movement back and forth, perhaps, it might cut down your time. The other thing is cut your time down by doing 2 threads at a time. That might help. And thank you for people who have been, we were 40 years, I was a warping board. Last year about, okay, good. Big Bertha. Yes, it can be, especially, and even if you're doing short warps, you can see that was only a 5-yard warp. You don't have to do the whole length of everything. All right, so let me go down up to pantyhose. Yes. Go ask Grandma for her old pantyhose. Yep. Okay. Let's see. Rotates, yes, that really helps. Oh, Good question. Why did I use two threads? It's not going to be two per dent. They're going to be separate. I did two together to cut down the time rather than going spinning it 10 times to do 1 inch. I only had to do it 5 times to do 1 inch. So I'm really counting 2 at a time. They have like warping paddles that I know people can put into 3 or 4 ends per inch or even more. I don't like to do that much because it tends to get a little tangled and so on. Yes, it's recorded. Well, I was thinking people were going to doze off halfway through while I'm winding or spinning the warping mill around, but I'm glad you didn't doze through the whole thing. But yes, and I guess I am a vendor, and I do also do a lot of YT things, so that's all I'm going to say. You can probably find more of this on that particular device that you might look at. So anyway. Thank you for coming, and yes, it's recorded. It'll be on WAFA for, I'm not sure how long they leave things on there. I think I hit a button, and it'll be for 30 days, and then it disappears. But there's another one out there somewhere. So hopefully that helps some of you, and if you have any other questions, you can keep typing them in. I'll respond. I'll probably type in all the answers as well as responding like I did just now. So thank you so much, and everyone have a great rest of your day or evening, wherever you're at.